was always debated. It really was. I mean, for a long period of time, and it's still debatable, is it not? Whether or not baseball is successful here in South Florida. Would you say? I mean, the only people so far that I think it's been really successful for were Laurie and Sampson.
Yes.
Who cashed in billions. Everybody else has left here kicking and screaming, have they not? The son-in-law and Pops, who, went from buying Dayglow Jesus paintings to all of a sudden, he's in the bidding at Sotheby's for a Van Gogh.
Exactly.
It's an original there, Jeff. Okay.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Great to be with you here on this Monday edition, a Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday edition of the Defo Show. And literally peeling ourselves off the mat after, Lubie, you were hard at it. I mean, I guess you took that one day off, a little liberty there on the actual day of my birthday, which was July 5th. That was Wednesday. Came back strongly. I saw a couple of the editions that you did there, Thursday and Friday of the Defo Show. So thank you very much for representing the program in such fine fashion. You looked resplendent, Lubie, in that Marlins jersey. Was that the one you ripped off from the radio station? Was that the one that you took out of the frame and ripped it off the wall there that was hanging in the program director's office while we were able to access the office when she was not in the building there early in the morning? That was that jersey you were wearing? That looked nice. Or did you buy that at some local sporting goods shop?
It was one of the freebie shirts we got in the many years that we represented the Miami Marlins, that those ties have somehow seemingly been, I guess, frayed or gone away.
Severed, yes. How many times have you requested Skip Schumacher, the manager, to come on our program here? And we used to be very friendly with these guys, were we not? On a first-name basis with all the guys in the PR and public relations department. We seem to honor the fact that and respect the fact that we were the flagship station. And even though the team was playing like shit, we tried our best not to cover it up, but to kind of just sort of dust it off. Well, the kids are young. They're coming around. Mattingly's Mr. Baseball. He's got seams on his head. Should be able to straighten this thing out. And, Kim Ng is really going to do a great job. We didn't realize, though, when we started trashing the team on a regular basis, that they were actually going to get good, which they have been, and writing one of the phenomenal baseball stories so far in the first half of the season. They're sitting there at 53 and 39 going to the All-Star break, remarkably, with 2 World Series titles, including a loaded team in 97, sort of a surprise team that evolved over time in 2003 when they won their second championship. And guess what? Since that time, it's been El Squaduch, my friends. Nothing. There would be no reason to believe that the Marlins were ever going to be a factor again in any kind of pennant race unless, remarkably, Steve Cohen bought the team and put his $365 million worth of annual baseball players on the diamond here at Lone Shark Park. And yet, this season, that would be the last thing on earth you would ever want to see happen. All those superstars. And I spent some time in Atlantic City during my little vacation and hiatus there. With Mr. Met himself, Ira Dornstein, 89 years old, this guy.
That's crazy.
Pops in the car and drives from New York City to Atlantic City. And then, check this out. I mean, talk about a day. Gets there about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We immediately start like a drink-a-thon that you would have thought would have knocked out even a 20-year-old. And then proceed to go to our favorite restaurant there in Atlantic City, Chef Ola's. Straight from that to a concert. A Tom Petty tribute band, which I'm not a big fan of tribute bands. I would like to see musicians play their own original music. If they're real musicians, there's nothing wrong with covering a song. You always like when they do their own extrapolation and variation on a theme. Whenever you have really talented musicians, we see this a lot. I mean, one of our favorites is a guy named Mike Zito. He does a version of Little Red Corvette, but he puts his own touch on it, right? So, it's not like Prince is singing the song. It's, his version of it. And it's a tribute to the original artist. But tribute bands in general kind of scare me a little bit because why would you want to be somebody else, Lubie? Think about that. It would be like somebody doing a sports show and one guy, kind of like the Dolphins defensive staff did that year, where one guy represents me, somebody else is you, and then the rest of the cast there participates in a way where you're thinking, all right, that's a nice tribute, but it isn't exactly the show. But we went to see a Tom Petty tribute band that was playing in the theater there, which I didn't even know they had a theater. at Harris in Atlantic City because naturally I never got that far down the alleyway there because I usually stop at the sports book in my never-ending quest to get buried in the last game of a parlay. I watch a lot of baseball, by the way, so I picked up some things while I was in Atlantic City. It very much is a sports-oriented town. And you could say this. This gets into your argument, Lubie, that we have on the chat line all the time with your good friend Brian Schwartz, who you seem to be almost, at a point where, it sounded hostile at times. I hate to see that happen, right? It's like when two hosts get a little bit hostile with each other. They're tired of each other's shit. And so, finally they start firing the real bullets at each other. Yeah. Well, you know what? If you would ever shut up for like 2 seconds, I could get a word in and I could explain my position. You probably feel that way many, many times.
I don't care now. I've accepted what we are.
You've come a long way, though, in that regard, where we used to summarily dismiss everything you said as being completely ridiculous. Now, all of a sudden, you have a very valid and
it only took 15 years.
Somewhat respected opinion. Well, and you realize, look, nobody's right or wrong about any of this shit. Come on. It's just in the way that you present it. You can sit here and scream your brains out like a Stephen A. Smith. Do you even know what position this guy is taking on things? No, seriously. I mean, do you really have any idea? Is he a Yankee fan? I don't know. I mean, you have no idea because the guy's so busy screaming his point that you sit there after a while and go, what is this man so upset about? We're talking about sports, for God's sake. And I don't get the implication, that Stephen A. Smith is gambling like a degenerate on these games. So does he really have the right to be that angry about what's going on? If you're not putting your money up, I mean, should really get overwhelmingly psychotic one way or the other about the outcome of a ball game? Maybe so. I guess that's part of being a fan. But I will say this in your friend Brian Schwartz's defense, that there is much more deep root. Maybe this was because I was in a gambling environment. That's possible. But I don't even think that was the case because my buddy Ira, Mr. Met, he will start talking baseball with anybody. Doesn't matter what the circumstances are. You could be at the craps table and a dice are in the air and you, for your lungs, need anything but a 7. And Ira will turn to the guy while the dice are in the air and go, hey, you think the Mets will be able to bounce back in the second half? Meanwhile, you're looking at a guy who's got like more than your net worth on the table. Like he's sitting up, yeah, you know what? I think if they get another pitcher at the trade deadline, as the, what is it, a croupier? What do they call the guy? The stick man? What exactly? Is it the croupier?
I think it is croupier, yeah.
Where, and you know how they say this, that they say this with the kind of thing that just hits you right in the gut. 7 out.
Yep.
It's never just, oh, look at that, a 7. It's 7 out. And then they start raking all of the chips off the table there, just making you feel like an absolute putz. And you're watching and seeing, my God, how much money is the casino? Whatever they paid out on this roll, they're getting it all back now. That's the way it goes. Anyway, a lot of interest in baseball, though, in general. Now, it wasn't so much. The sports book in Harris is kind of small. So you never went there, did you, Lubie? You've never been to Atlantic City?
I've yet to be in AC.
I don't know. Well, would you like it or not? That's a good question here. Vegas, you can kind of get lost in the drift. I don't know if it's the same at Atlantic City. You don't have the volume of people. And in this particular area of town, you don't have the number of casinos. It's not like you can do your share of casino hopping, but it's in a sort of confined little area there by the marina, which is actually a nice touch. Went wave running for the first time in years, Lubie. Wow. Kind of a strange experience there. They had you going around in circles. I thought it was going to be a little bit more adventurous. And yet I couldn't figure out, they can't possibly just give you a wave runner for an hour and turn you loose in these wide open waterways where you wouldn't know your way around. I mean, you understand this from the limited experience you had. I mean, you have to have at least some idea how to navigate the territory. Otherwise, you might end up dead, literally. I mean, it's very easy. You almost got hit by a boat coming out of the canal that time. You're going down the wrong side of the intercoastal at 80 miles an hour, a mere 60 miles an hour over the speed limit. That was scary for me. I mean, and that was my good machine too. I think he had you on the good machine.
Probably.
I mean, I didn't want this $8,000 wave runner to go up and smoke there. I mean, you could have gotten smashed on the one that cost me $2 and had a 2-stroke engine. That would have been okay. But very nice. And you know what? That's the other thing about it. I guess you could do this in Vegas. People go to Red Rock Canyon and all of this other stuff. I mean, are you inclined? Well, you've been to Vegas, though. Did you go
Yes.
hiking on one of these trails like an idiot? What did you do?
Whenever I've done Vegas, whenever I go next, I'll have to do that because that's what my wife's into is all that crazy nature crap. So we'll go.
Oh, God, what a waste of time on vacation. I want to be in a smoky casino the entire time. I want to come out smelling like camels. Cigarettes, not the animal. Yeah. Do people still smoke Camel? I mean, the Camels, they don't make them anymore, do they?
I don't think Camel exists. Well, that's something you saw.
The Surgeon General finally said, listen, that's it. That's why we draw the line. You smoke a Camel, you're dead. I think my dad used to smoke Camels. That was a mark of a real man back in the day.
I think so.
Camels, right? You had the Marlboro Man, which the Marlboro Man right now would probably fall into some category. I would imagine Ron DeSantis might even ban the billboards for the Marlboro Man. That's how weak he was compared to the guys that had the Camel cigarettes rolled up in their sleeves. That was a mark of a real man, Lubie. I'm glad you missed all of that because and were kids smoking cigarettes when you were in high school? Was that a common thing? Yeah.
I mean, you had people doing it. By the time I got college, people were doing all over the place. It's so funny. I thought about that the other day, like with the vape explosion and how little you see actual cigarettes now compared to before. When I was in college, everywhere you went, people in high school too, people smoke cigs everywhere. It's interesting how they cut back on that and had them transition to something that may be worse.
Oh, this vape thing.
Because they do it constantly. With a cig, you'd have to take it out, light it up, smoke. Like you weren't constantly smoking a cig. The vape, people will just walk around all day smoking a fucking vape. Like I'm curious if it's actually worse for you than.
Oh no, it has to be worse for you. Hasn't a lot of that been banned already? Where and there are serious and grotesque concerns about the health of people and the state that they're putting their body in by vaping. Well, what's weird about vaping is when you see the guy that has like the giant vape. I don't know. Is this common anymore? I don't know that I've noticed it or seen it as much. But they're ensconced in vapor smoke as it exits their mouth. Like a big cloud, a big white cloud forms. Right. And you're thinking, how could you possibly have inhaled that much of this shit? Held it in for a few minutes or seconds. And then as you go ahead and exhale, literally like a cloud of smoke. There used to be a cartoon series called Clutch Cargo. And I think two of the characters, I'm not sure which one had the smoke surrounding his head. Maybe some old geezer out there might remember this thing. It might have been Prune Face and Itchy. Were two characters on the Clutch Cargo cartoons, and I believe was it Prune Face? No, because he wouldn't have been able to see his face. But there was one of the characters that was always ensconced in cigarette smoke around. You could not even make out the character's face because there was always a big cloud of smoke, and that's what these vape guys remind me of. Going all the way back to the Clutch Cargo cartoons. How could you possibly walk around like that? You can't even see. You need a windshield wiper just to take your next few steps. But that's crazy. So that was popular, I would imagine, when you were at FSU, no?
Yeah, cigs. I know cigarette smoking from middle school through college was like a freaking deal. Yeah. I never did it. My grandma got emphysema, so it was always a weird thing for me. I would dabble in marijuana, but cigarettes it's like it was always a weird.
I didn't like it. I didn't care for it. I tried it a little bit when I was a teenager because what would it be? Capitulating to peer pressure? It wasn't really pressure.
I mean, everyone did it.
But everybody did it, and the cool guys were smoking Camels. It just happened to be. And, it turns out, I guess, even the Surgeon General finally just said, hey, listen, we can't allow this to go on. Well, we can let people go out there with AK-47s, but we can't have them smoking none of those fucking Camel cigarettes. Forget about it. And anyway, there would have been a cloud of smoke around me for sure. I did get involved in a parlay, and the professor, his words just linger in my head. I see his face whenever I put in one of these parlay bets. Because I would have to say, and I was getting clobbered while I was in Atlantic City, just absolutely annihilated. In fact, I don't even know if I should admit this to the people out there, but there was a day that I would say I wagered less than a total of $50 the entire day that I was in Atlantic City on Friday. Now, I was engaged in other activities. I went wave running in the morning, took a little walk of life around the marina. They got a nice little path there. Attacked, though, and maybe this was a sign from the gods of gambling, Lubie. Should I read more into this than was just on the surface? They have this beautiful kind of nature trail, believe it or not, that goes from Harris to the Borgata along the backside. Now, I don't have time to mess with that when I'm on my way making a beeline for the horse book at the Borgata. So I cross this path there that cuts directly across through a large field that is loaded with duck shit.
Oh, nice.
And you traipse through duck shit like you were an infantryman, in Vietnam. Looking around, you're like, duck shit here? What the fuck? And you can make your way very quickly. I mean, it's not quite as fast as if you had caught like the Jitney bus, which stops and makes frequent runs all around the circuit there in Atlantic City. If you caught that right away, if you didn't have to wait any time for it to get there, which they come like every 10 minutes maybe. There's always one flying around the corner. And they do go directly from where I stay at Harris over to the Borgata where you can bet the races. Nice. And that would be the fastest way to go. But this is almost as quick. So you would be not inclined to take the nature trail around there, which I do on my walk of life. And the reason I bring this up is, and I think, one thing about Florida that we don't have that is very, very prevalent and prominent in the Northeast is the dreaded horsefly. Well, we have them here, right? Horseflies, they land on you and they don't give a fuck. You can have a baseball bat in your hand and be ready to whack your arm as hard as you possibly can. And they're sitting there, and it takes them a little time to do their thing. They're not quite like mosquitoes where it's like, zzz, and they got you. Sometimes they would sit there, and the daring people that knew that, hey, I'm not going to let this thing, not only is he not going to bite me, but he's never going to bite another soul again because he's going to be dead as a doornail here in a second here. But you had to wait a second, like the fly would land on you. Big, giant things with green heads. I mean, they really look weird. And it would land on you, but it takes them a second to bite. So you would just have to, wait a second. It was almost like you had fireworks on July 4th. And you were one of these idiots that was going to wait till it was at the very bottom of the fuse before, like Vic Morrow in the combat shows, you were going to lob a hand grenade in there and take out a house full of Jerry's. So having the horsefly technique was, you had to have a little bit of daring, a little bit of balls to go ahead and let that thing sit on you for a second before you took the swat. Now, once they were engaged in trying to do their thing with the bite, they were a little bit more vulnerable. I mean, it was kind of like, a fighter who throws an errant right hand and then all of a sudden,
it's open, yeah.
His chin, he's wide open.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm on this nature trail, and I'm assuming that this was a sign from the gods of gambling because I wasn't actually going to make my way to the Borgata. I was going to turn around at some point before I got there and walk the distance back. But I was swarmed by horseflies. Swarmed. Because it's like a natural preserve that you're walking along with the weeds that are growing. And, it's kind of like we feel about coral reefs where, nobody cuts this stuff down because it's bad for the overall chemistry of the environment and can cause more damage than you can imagine. So, these horseflies just came out of nowhere. I mean, like a gang almost, where you're walking down the street, kind of like my run down Sutphin Boulevard. Andy can relate to this. And all of a sudden, 6 guys that look like they're not very friendly. And what time is it? 2 a.m. and I have money on me. What a perfect situation. Oh, no. How am I going to get out of this? Attacked, Lubie. I mean, and I was thinking, this is a sign from the gods of gambling not to go to the Borgata and play horses.
Oh, okay. Oh, good for you. I thought you were going to say bet everything on the Hornets.
Which I would have been tempted to do had they been in action there. Although I didn't see those guys that were betting Summer League basketball, which we'll get to in a second here. And also, Scoop Skolnick is going to join us. I don't know. It doesn't sound to me if he's going to join us at 8:05 Eastern. Like he went out to Las Vegas to see the Wembanyama debut, which, what was that, Lubie? What would you make of that? The debut kind of sucked, but last night he came back and redeemed himself. In the debut, it looked like he was getting knocked around, and you're thinking, this guy's 50 pounds away from being any kind of a force in the NBA. What did you make of that?
That's what most people took from it. I don't know what to do with. Look, Jovic has looked like he's going to be the MVP in Summer League. Like, I never know what to do with Summer League. I take it with a grain of salt. I don't mind it because it gives us a little bit of basketball that we can make some
The Wemby story is significant, though. I mean, where this guy's making his debut after it's kind of like LeBron James when he got into it.
Yes, I enjoy watching him, and I think it's interesting. But like people who were literally calling him the biggest bust ever after one summer league performance,
Yeah,
that was a little rash. And if they go the other way now, I'll still think that is rash as well. I think the guy will admit, he said, look, I didn't know what the hell I was doing out there. Like, he's 19. Like,
yes.
he does need to put on some size. He does need to get bigger, but no one's saying that's not the case. Like, it's just his raw skills. The fact that he's able to do crossovers and go to the basket, do step back threes at 7'4" is freaking impressive. Like, what will he be? Who knows? Who knows? Look, Zion hasn't learned how to lose weight. So, and I thought Zion was going to be literally shut everyone up. Like, you heard the whispers when he was drafted, and all he's done is go along with it. So, we don't know what any of these guys are going to friggin' be, but it's been interesting to watch him out there, and it's been interesting to see the American sports world try to tear him down before he even begins.
Yeah, and especially with all the fanfare that was surrounding the debut. And then on top of that, they needed to invoke the 3 knockdown rule with his security people as one of them knocked out Britney Spears. Which is kind of an interesting story. And you would think if anybody would understand what that was all about, it would be Britney Spears, who no doubt is swarmed, like I was, by horseflies. I get swarmed by horseflies. He gets swarmed by fans, as does Britney Spears. But the story, if you weren't familiar with it, which I guess everybody is by now, is that Spears kind of tapped Wembanyama on the shoulder as he was either exiting or in a restaurant. And one of the security people, thinking it was an overzealous fan reaching in there, naturally reacted and shoved a hand away. And I guess, there's conflicting versions of the story here. But according to Spears people, he just smacked her in the head and knocked her down. According to others, including the Las Vegas police report, the guy pushed her hand away and it hit her in the face, her own hand, and that's what dropped her to the floor there, the old self-knockdown, which I experienced that day at my son's barbecue, although I was passing out. She was just reacting to what was an errant shot, supposedly from a security guy. But you would think if anybody would understand, hey, don't do this, it would be Britney Spears, no? I mean, having the experience that she's had with fans over the years, and then on top of that, paparazzi chasing her all over the place. Just leave the guy alone, right? Hey, Wemby, how you doing, man? You want to come over, sign an autograph for me? That would be fine.
Yeah, there's ways to do it.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you're famous, you can find a way to get a word over to the guy. She has her own security.
Arrange for a private picture, yes.
Yeah, there's so many. She lost herself in the moment. And the video looks like the dude just doesn't look. It's not like he knows a woman, but you would think he would have the time to turn and look and see who it was and just like get away. I can backhand her. And I'm not laughing at the backhanding. I'm laughing at the idea that since then they've tried to make it, they've zaprudered it, and they've tried to be like, well, he hit her hand and it mysteriously hit herself in the face. And
is it a charge or a block? It was the call.
Exactly.
You need like Mendy Rudolph to come out there and figure out what the fuck happened there. It's incredible. Anyway, considering how ballyhooed the fanfare was surrounding his debut, it would have been nice to see the guy go crazy. Because I'm kind of rooting for him to be good. I don't really get as much of a kick out of the highly hyped player that turns out to be a bust. We don't want to see this guy turn into Chris Washburn. We want to see him, evolve, or even Ralph Sampson for that matter.
Yep.
Who everybody thought was such a cinch to dominate once he got to the NBA. The question marks were somewhat similar. Is he too skinny? Is he going to be strong enough to hold up there when Rick Mahorn gets a hold of him and puts him in a hammerlock? Or, and back then, imagine you had such liberal rules. We've talked to Ron Rothstein about this, where literally we thought his background was in professional wrestling. And he didn't deny it.
No, he didn't. He just laughed.
I think he personally taught Lambert how to do the airplane spin as if he was Bruno Sammartino that time that he body slammed Larry Bird to the floor and there was no call.
We know Robin eventually got into wrestling, and where did he get his start? With those bad boy Pistons, so you never know.
Exactly. If anybody fit the bill, it would have been Robin, just as Zoe. That was always funny when they were on the free throw line there, lined up in the lane. And you could just hear Rodman saying, "Why don't you take the dress off, Zoe? You don't look as good in one as I do."
So hated.
And Zoe with steam coming out of his ears. Anyway, so he redeemed himself though, Wembanyama, with a big performance yesterday. What was it? 27-12.
Yep.
They lost to Portland. He shot 9 of 14 from the floor and 2 of 4 from 3-point range. Which, if you could knock down 50% of your threes at 7-4 and go to the basket, and he does have some moves. I mean, even in that game where he was 1 for 13 or whatever he was, 2 for 13, his opener. He showed you some stuff. It looked like it was transpiring a little bit too slowly, though, didn't it? For NBA pace, where that might work with those Frenchies, those cute little croissants you're playing with in France, there, Wemby. But it isn't working here. We'll see. So anyway, Scoop's going to join us, and nobody loves NBA off-season material more than you, Lubie. Anything could be going on.
What do you mean? They did it. I posted one from us last week that got 3,000 views. They posted one before us that got words of 7,000 views just because it had the words Miami Heat and Dame Lillard.
Is that right? People are that crazy about. See, I don't sense that in my travels around town. Now, maybe I'm, dealing with the geezers at Caesars here. Come to think of it, the only guys I ever run into are horse racing degenerates. Is that perhaps a common thread that you see in my life? But I don't hear. Sports bettors and gamblers are all sports fans. Also, I mean, and they tend to know more because what is the ultimate analytic, Lubie? Are you willing to put your money behind your opinion, Mr. Stephen A. Smith? Why don't you bet $1 million on the fact that you think so and so is going to be this or that? That would, certainly give you a little bit more of a rooting interest in it. And maybe you would have to think more and consider more about what you're saying overall, because if you're not going to be right the majority of the time, you're going to be broke,
Pretty
no
much.
matter how many millions you have. So, I mean, in general, if you go like to a racetrack and you start a sporting conversation, usually you'll find that these people are fairly knowledgeable about other sports. Do you find that to be the case, Lubie? I mean, you've been around the track.
Yeah, I mean, look, horse racing gamblers are a little different. They're not all big sports fans. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. If you're in a sports book, yes. If you're in a sports book,
these guys know their shit.
No sports.
Yes.
He's betting women's basketball, then I would presume he knows college basketball and college football and NFL.
Could be like, I mean, think about this. Our buddy Jim Sarney, who's not really a big gambler. What was his one possible request he had? Which from now on, I am never going to go and buy tickets for anybody, in advance by going to Atlantic City. I would rather lobby Tallahassee to get sports gambling here so you can make your own bets, because it becomes a source of paranoia. And it happened to me on this particular trip as Mustang's friend, the lovely Kat, who you can find around town. She tends bar at a couple of places in Pompano here, Spanks the Hog and Stingers. You probably know Kat if you thought about it for a second.
Very well. Yes. I know
Anyway,
Kat.
she's from Pittsburgh. Okay, so Mustang says, "Hey, we're going to Atlantic City," and she says, "Can you put 2 bets in for me on the Pittsburgh Pirates? One to win the National League pennant." Or make the World Series, and the other to win the World Series, the Pittsburgh fucking Pirates, Lubie. Now, what's your first reaction to that? She's going to bet 50 on each proposition.
It's a waste.
Bucket, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a super bad.
With my luck, though, and I know this because my dad said this, and he was right, that as a family, the DeForests in general never really get overwhelmingly lucky. Now, we're very lucky and fortunate to have lived the lives that we've lived. My brother's very successful. My dad enjoyed life immensely, lived to be 89. My mother lived to be almost 98 years old. And, was very, very happy in her lifetime for the most part. Until in the end, I don't know. Maybe I overreacted. She seemed a little bitter at the end. She was kind of always negative, in her own positive way. Does that make any sense, Lubie?
If you're a Jewish son, then yes, that makes 100%.
Is there just a natural hormonal conflict that makes women crazy that are of the Jewish persuasion?
My mom and my grandma. I don't know if every woman of the Jewish faith is that way, but my mom and my grandma would say negative things thinking they're being positive.
Yes. Like, how could you? I think my mother had tremendous faith in me, and yet you would think that I was the biggest loser that ever walked the face of the planet. It's insane, right?
It's true.
She was a type that was like, shouldn't you worried about being, getting fired? You're like, no, ma, I'm on a roll here. What are you talking about?
Why would I? What am I going to do with that?
Of course I should worry about that, ma. What do you want me to do about it? Line up another job? I mean, you're always thinking ahead in this business, are you not? We were just discussing our next move today.
Always. Yeah.
Yeah. We're getting a little nudge now from these people, though, to produce something, which is good. I mean, you know what?
Yeah, that's fine.
It's another sign from the gods of gambling. Don't go to the Borgata and play your losing horse strategies, Defo. Why don't you try something new? The one time I went away, I was, you always have a series of mind bets. Like, am I going to go and do this? And I went away from my natural notion. There was like there must have been some bizarre weather. I guess this was Thursday in the Northeast, where racetracks went into 2-3 hour delays. Normally they would just one of them, I guess, canceled in Maryland, Laurel, and then Thistle Downs is somewhere in some buttfuck town in Ohio, right? I don't even know where it is, and yet you're betting on it, and they had like a 3 hour delay on the card. They're showing the odds for like the fifth race or whatever it was, and it's up there for hours. And I kept turning to Big Rich, who was with me, and saying, "Did they cancel that?" And not that I'm inclined to bet Thistle Downs anyway, but if it's next up on the board, as Andy would know, I'm going to go ahead and throw a few bucks on it just to have some action. And I kept thinking, okay, go with your usual strategy, DeForest. After the long delay, somehow the favorite's going to get fucked. Go ahead, do your back wheel of the favorite, and hope some bomb wins the race. So I let it go. Didn't even think about it. Race goes off. I hear Big Rich screaming, "Look at that! There's a bomb out there out front." Here comes the favorite trotting into second place. It was a tight photo. Thought the favorite got up, but it didn't. And had I gone ahead and sprung for the $42 it would have cost me to make that bet, I would have got back 900 and change.
There you go.
Did I do that?
No.
No, because I was busy betting 2 chalk 7-5 exactas somewhere else where both of them were off the board. That's the way that goes. And then you're sitting there going, I can't believe I didn't do what I always do. I do it every time. You can really, your mind can get severely warped in these kind of settings, Lubie. But big baseball action here. The professor, he was haunting me with his words about betting parlays. And this is how America is eventually going to find its demise. Never mind Ron DeSantis getting elected president, which, by the way, Ronnie boy, that was a good one. He's blaming the media now for his decline in the polls.
That's going to help him. I bet that helps.
Yeah. The fact that anybody's talking about him at all, except for people that were thinking about, hey, I mean, can we allow this guy to distribute Mein Kampf to sixth graders and demand that they read it?
Exactly.
That's the next move, right? Never mind banning books. Let's demand that kids read certain books that are, inclined to lead them to believe that there is some merit to our Nazi philosophies.
Oh, God.
Right? Das Boot, was that the other book that he said was going on the must-reading list? Never mind Dick, Jane, and fucking Sally. Why am I cursing so much? I actually came out of AC okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
You sure? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I love it. You have been in vigor. I think it's classic.
No, I feel good. I mean, you know what? It was very refreshing, and it kind of just reinvigorated my interest in sports in general because I did get a kick out of so many things that happened, even in a losing effort. Which I don't know. Do I get into this thing with the parlays and the Marlins game? That atrocity that took place?
Yeah. What do you mean? It was the weirdest game ever, and of course, that's the game you were attached to.
I did. It's funny because out of just pure, I guess what it wasn't really anger, but I did bet against them when they got beat by that ninth inning home run by the Phillies on Friday night.
Oh no! Oh, so you
no? I bet against the Marlins on that one, so I hit that game.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you doubled down, and it worked for you this time.
Second time it worked, but I did not hit the parlay. I hit 3 out of 4 games on a 4-teamer.
Of course.
And we came to the plate with just a bizarre shot with the Cincinnati Reds, who were hot. They'd won 5 in a row, and I had played a 4 road team parlay. So we get the first game in, the Braves 2-1. They hold up. And then the second game was that Marlins game against the Phillies, which it looked like we were buried in the entire time. The Marlins looked like you were going to cruise to a victory. the Phillies, and you do pick up some things about baseball because all of a sudden it's arbitrary which game they select. I would imagine since we're in Atlantic City, that's why they had the sound on the Phillies game in the Harris Sportsbook.
Yeah, it's right by Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I mean, and there are a lot of guys with Philly caps. I would say the two teams that are most prominently featured there, obviously, are the Yankees and the Philadelphia Phillies. They love it. In fact, I saw a lot of John Kruk. He is the color analyst on the Phillies TV crew, I believe.
Oh, he is? Oh,
Yeah.
good for him. I haven't heard that name in fucking forever. Oh,
Kruk,
shit.
I mean, he does a good job because he's candid. I mean,
I like
what's that?
I liked him with ESPN. He was with ESPN for years. I wonder what happened to him.
He certainly brings more to the table in terms of animation and expression, and as you say, actually providing a little bit of color than the vapid A-Rod and Jeter team will. I don't know. Have they been on yet together? A-Rod and Jeter on Fox? I haven't seen it. If they have you seen any A-Rod / Jeter hosted Fox pregame shows? Because they asked a couple of guys, did they not, to put Derek Jeter in there? And as much as people admire Jeter, let's face it, and he may be. You think he's just like a hoot, like a raucous riot when he's in private confines there and not speaking in public? Because in public, he hasn't said a thing of any interest in a long, long time, has he? Or maybe ever. Derek Jeter.
Yeah, I was going to say when.
When was his last colorful quote?
Never.
The kind of thing that made you think, oh, okay, wow, this guy's going to be a good color analyst here because, I mean, he's just a hoot to talk to in general. They never use those guys. I guess Kevin Millar would be an example of a guy who made it, who was always fun and always had kind of an interesting, upbeat, kind of offbeat attitude. The kind of guy that would be, in some novel that was talking about, the Call of the Wild or whatever. I mean, something where he just was against the grain or whatever of what was happening. Call of the Wild is probably a poor example. I was thinking of Jack Kerouac, right? One of those kind of characters.
Well, that's
right?
the thing. I'm trying to think of baseball. Like, as much as we like or don't like announcers, in other sports, you'll get the guy that doesn't give a damn. I'm trying to think of baseball. That it's rare that, like, even McCarver, who everyone loved, it wasn't like he was fun guy. He just
he was very deep rooted in serious analysis.
Yeah, he just talked a lot. He wasn't like he was fun. Like, I'm trying to think.
Euchre was fun.
Euchre.
Yeah.
Euchre, maybe Pete Rose. We know he doesn't give a shit.
Right. No, there have been guys that have been very colorful. And guys like Todd Hollingsworth that just drove you out of your mind. I mean, where you were just saying, please, let us enjoy for 1 second the sacredness of the silence of the game.
If any guy was ever going to get Tommy Hutton his job back, it was Todd Hollingsworth.
Yes. He may as well have been, wearing a sign. Where's Tommy? No, that was an atrocious departure from what everybody had a great feeling for when Tommy Hutton was doing the games, and then they replaced him with Todd Hollingsworth. My God, whose decision was that, Lubie?
Jeter. It was Jeter.
But yeah, the parlays, they got me. I hit 2 out of 3 the first night, and the game I lost was that Marlin game that they won 10-9 in the bottom of the ninth on a throwing error by the pitcher. After losing the lead, Walker hits a home run top of the ninth. I thought, wow, it's a series of miracles. I already had the first 2 games in the bank. And this was it. This was going to decide at 6-1 on this particular parlay. The games were all fairly about even in terms of odds. And that night, I just thought that the Cardinals, they had lost, the first 2 games of the series. And I thought, okay, I thought it was only a 3-game series.
No, that's what they had lost the first 2. It was a 4-game series. You're right. Yes.
Right. It was a 4-game series, and they won the third game, I guess. The Cardinals did, and then lost the fourth. All right. The Marlins did not sweep the Cardinals.
No, the Marlins, they should have won that game, but the thing that
they lost one game to the Cards 3-0. I think.
The next game, the 4th game of the series, the Yuri Perez game, they lost, and.
Well, and that was the night, then they were playing the Phillies in the weekend series, which they won the next 2. That was Friday night's game.
Yes, Friday night was they went on to lose that game after having it. It was the opposite of the St. Louis game. They were down late and pulled something out.
Well, they were up 5-0 in the first inning, and I was ready to throw the ticket away. And then I went and had a drink. I couldn't watch it. So, I met the Mustang there at McCormick and Schmink's. It's McCormick and Schmink's, actually. But I always think I want to go up there and change the sign. which is right there in Harris. So I meet her, and they have a pretty good thing going there, a happy hour that is actually really good for a casino restaurant. And, a decent quality. I don't know what, we'd have to check with the Gambling Gourmet. Wasn't there a McCormick and Schmick's here in
Oh,
South Florida? Is
yeah.
there still one? There might, or were there a couple? McCormick and Schmick's.
I thought there was. That's why when you said Schmanks, I'm like, I feel like I've heard of this place. I don't know.
McCormick and Schmick's. I want to say it still exists here, although it's not like you hear it talked about a great deal. I mean, we're involved with the Let's Eat South Florida thing with the Mike Mayo Lunchbox show that airs on there on the Facebook page in front of 110,000 very loyal and, actively participating subscribers. Would you say that is also true? I don't know. Is it just a handful of people that actually participate? Or, would you say of the 110,000 at some point in time, almost everybody weighs in on something?
It's actually up to 111,000. And yes, people are. I don't do a lot on there, and even I still chime in. I once in a while see Shirley's name. Like I've seen your wife pop in there. Like,
yeah, she gets involved in it.
At least active people will still pop in. Like,
yeah,
it's funny, but yes, 100%. Everyone at some point, I feel like, chimes in just because you see it and it's food. So you just have a natural inclination to respond or deny or add your 2 cents.
I don't recall ever seeing anything about McCormick and Schmick's.
No.
Anyway, so I go in there just because I don't want to feel the pain. How could I bet against the Marlins? I just, I had a notion that the Cardinals were probably. I thought it was a 3-game series. I figured they're not going to get swept. The Marlins, I think, had Hoeing on the mound there. They were going with a bullpen kind of approach here. This guy's not going to go too far, and he didn't because. By the time I got back to check in on the game, it was like 6-5 Marlins, which wasn't bad, right? You're thinking, wow, I was hopelessly out of this thing. Now I'm only down 1 run. The Cards had rallied for 5 runs, I think, in the 3rd inning, and the Marlins came back and recaptured the lead, retook the lead in the bottom of the 3rd, but they had already coughed up an enormous advantage. And now you're in there with a shot, right? At 6-1. So, and what? Would you have hedged on that? It wasn't worth it. I didn't bet enough money on this thing to, go ahead and think, whoa, geez, I got to hedge on my stinking $20. But it's 20 to win 142, and it's just the thrill of winning, Lubie. No? I mean, if you're cashing a ticket, don't you feel a hell of a lot better than even if you lost money on a particular race, but you're cashing a couple of tickets? Don't you feel good when you're at the window there, the self-betting machine, and the other people are around? Not that I care that much about that, but they're saying, wow, he's sticking tickets in the machine. How much did he win? So, and this is a lightweight bet, but this is how they're burying America, Lubie. This is how I became a part of the very system that is going to be the eventual downfall of not just America, but the human race. Because that they're sending it in Japan, right? They're sending it in China. I don't know. Are the Russians sending it in? Yes, of course they are. They were trying to fix games for forever, these guys. I have 400,000 rubles that says you will miss that free throw. Where does all the crooked shit happen, right? Whenever they detect something that's really strange in betting patterns around the world, where's the source of it? Well, money is coming in from Russia. Like fucking Vlad himself has said, hey, listen, you want to get nuked? You're going to double fault on that first serve. First service opportunity, and look, they just banned 2 guys for life, lower level tennis players, because they were fixing these proposition bets.
Now, we talked about that. Perk came on Friday in your stead at Gulfstream, and Perk Mayo brought up Wimbledon for 5 seconds when he was trying to post something, which was a weird non sequitur. But Perk, trying to play along, brought up, since we're at a track, didn't that just happen in tennis, like lower level tennis? And I was like, I feel like I remember that story. And I was hoping that's the one time I was hoping you were there because you're Mr. Tennis.
Yeah.
So we sort of discussed that.
That happened. Yeah. 2 guys got banned for life. Now it's not the first controversy, and there have been more prominent players. That guy, Lubie, I remember him. He was not a very happy camper, and probably because he was in debt to bookmakers for so much money that he was forced to go out there and lose the second set, because he had the audacity of winning the first set with superior ability to whatever stiff that he was playing that the Russians were backing that day. And you got the feeling that, I probably had a guy disguised as his coach, because who would know who was, is it Ivan Lubicic? Is that his first name? Lubicic. You remember this guy? He became a coach, actually. And he was never actually convicted of doing anything that was, what would you say, unscrupulous, maybe perhaps, not of the highest integrity. But always there were assertions being cast his way that he was involved in some of this shit. Is it Ivan Lubicic?
I don't know. I can't find.
Lubicic.
Okay,
Lubicic.
will find that person.
I can't really look it up.
Online.
But anyway, yeah. So tennis has had this going on forever, and it's always Russian money that's coming in. They're sending it in,
Shocking.
and I think they had sent it in also, perhaps maybe on the Marlins that night, because all of a sudden this St. Louis pitcher. Did you see this play? I mean, that beats me in this parlay. It's ridiculous. Parlays and prop bets are the two things, the two P's that are going to bury the human race eventually, because of the popularity of this. Also, another P thrown in there. Parlays and propositions and popularity, that they all go together. So, and I'm figuring this, though, Lubie, and this is just to have some action. Do I want to bet $20 straight up on a ball game?
Oh, no.
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 Do I want to invest $100 even in my baseball betting acumen? Probably not. Although, I usually hit the majority of games. So, under the professor's theory, and this goes back to the most simplistic of gambling theories, which, I got when I was, I think, 9 years old. One of the few books I read cover to cover was, I forget the exact title of it, but it was something along the lines of Andy Byers Picking Winners by Henry Bomsaway Bomsey, Bomze. You might want to look that up too, Libby. I probably should have done some research, but who knew where we were going with this conversation? We haven't said anything yet, and we're like 30 minutes into the show. 50 minutes into the show. The hell drugs am I on after being in Atlantic City for a week? So bottom line is, I get to the ninth inning, I get an enormous home run by this guy Walker, who looked like a stiff to me, from the Cardinals. The Cardinals are a shitty team and had every reason to lose this game. They had battled back a couple of times. They got down 8-6 and then battled back to the point where they're only down 8-7. And even in that eighth inning, the bottom of the eighth, they have Paul Goldschmidt, the reigning MVP of the National League, at the plate. Runners on first and third, one away. The Marlins are into their bullpen, which they're deep into their bullpen because they started a guy that should have been in the bullpen to begin with.
That was bullpen.
They've already given up 7 runs in the game, and the guys are dancing off the bases there, first and third, and you're thinking, this thing's in the bag. I'll be going to the window here shortly. Goldschmidt at the plate. 2 strikes. He fouls off a couple, and then you're like, oh, my God. Paul Goldschmidt just struck out? What is this, Casey at the bat? Oh, crazy. Geez. No joy in Mudville, right? So they still have another shot. I forget who is it. I don't want to say Contreras and be dead wrong about this, but who the hell follows Goldschmidt in the Cardinals batting order?
Oh, good.
I'm making up names now because I'm getting confused. I'm blending together. There was a guy named Contreras. There was this guy, that guy. I wouldn't know. But whoever was up there, you're figuring, okay, he's batting behind, Goldschmidt, the reigning MVP. He's got to be at least a reasonably decent hitter, no? And he strikes out. So we leave these runners dangling. What's that?
There's a guy. So after Goldschmidt, at least that day, this is the one where the miraculous Marlins win. Nootbaar, Nootbaar is.
Well, no wonder he struck out. What a
and
stiff.
Arenado, then Contreras.
Oh, Arenado's on that lineup also.
Yes,
Come on. We couldn't get
a monster from Colorado. Yes, he's 2 guys after Goldschmidt. He bats 4th. Bats cleanup.
So you're thinking the guy in between has to be something decent. He strikes out also. To a Marlins reliever, and then we go to the ninth, and you know the story by now. It's just crazy, right? I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, so do I have a shot at getting a run here? This guy Walker hits a 2-run home run. Now all you have to do is get 3 outs in the bottom of the ninth inning, and the Marlins, who are winning all of these 1-run games, finally were on the losing end. It all made perfect sense. It was a thing of beauty. I was already, standing there in line, hoping to beat like that fat lady in the wheelchair that also was sending it in. I think she had the Marlins, though. So sure enough, guy walks the first batter, usually a kiss of death if you're in a 1-run game. Hicks came on to pitch the 9th inning for the St. Louis Cardinals. Walks the first guy, gets the next guy out. the Marlins lead the majors in hitting into double plays. One of the unfortunate byproducts of the fact that they put the ball in play is that you're going to hit into a lot of double plays because you don't have Goldschmidt and Newmar or whatever, Julian Newmar striking out there in succession, as you're threatening to finally come back into this ball game that you've been desperately hanging by a thread in for 9 innings. What happens now? The guy, he walks the first guy, gets the second guy out. Next guy up gets a single. It's first and second, one away. I think Wendell is at the plate. He throws a really good pitch, and it sinks to the bottom, and the guy barely gets a bat on it. And it's a tapper out to the mound. Now, unfortunately, it's going to move the runners up. There's no way this guy's going to throw out either the guy at third or second, going to third or second. So he's going to turn, throw to first. You're going to have two away, and 2 runners in scoring position. You can still lose, but all he's got to do is get one guy out, one cheap pop up, and you're out of this thing. And what happens, man? He throws the ball in the right field and 2 runs score.
It's not even that it was an error and the runners moved over. It was like the weirdest error ever. With both runs
He's
scored
standing 2 feet from the guy. Throws a folly floater, a Steve Hamilton folly floater in the right field into the corner there. And you're thinking, not only is that going to send home the run, it's going to send home the winning run.
I was
a walk-off piece of shit. I mean, how do they even characterize that? I don't know that you can.
It was like a walk-off error.
Parlays and profits. What's that?
Like a walk-off error. I remember being excited about that Friday.
Walk-off throwing error, yeah. And I felt like an asshole. I mean, complete asshole because, what am I doing betting against the Marlins? The Cinderella season is underway. We are having nothing but Cinderella seasons here in South Florida. Every team is fucking Cinderella.
Yes.
And I can't bring myself. But I also knew that, I thought the odds were in my favor, and they were until that. So, that night I hit 2 out of 3, and the next night I hit 3 out of 4. I lost with the Reds in their ball game. They got trounced by whoever they were playing. I took 4 road teams, including the Philadelphia Phillies, who had won. Going into that game, they were looking to tie a long-time franchise record of consecutive road victories, and that's all they were talking about in Philadelphia is how this team has performed on the road. And I'd watched the games a couple of nights that they had used to extend this streak, and both games they played really, really well. I mean, they looked like a team in perfect harmony and in sync. So you thought they were going to come in here and take care of the Marlins, which they did. They tied their franchise record for road victories. 13 straight, going back to 1976. See, it took me 56 minutes to throw in an historical fact. There you go, Lubie. All of this was to get that one, statistic in that I had, written down on a piece of paper before the 4-hour Dolphin pregame show. When he's been sacked more than 3 times in a ball game, Tua Tagovailoa has never completed more than 50% of his passes. There you go. You can go into the stadium there, watch the game, and know everything about it after listening for 4 hours. I love sports. How could you not? Anyway, good to have you guys with us. The Marlins now go to the All-Star break with their best record ever in franchise history. 8.5 back, though, of the Atlanta Braves, who went. Did they ever lose? No. The Braves with like 60 wins.
The Marlins got the second best record in the National League. I think they're like 3rd or 4th overall in baseball, and they're almost double digits back in their division.
Yeah, if they're in any other division, I think they're in first place. I believe that might be the case with their record. And maybe, I don't know, maybe the AL East, the Rays have a better record? I would think so. Possibly, but the Marlins are right there. What is it? Schumacher? What do you think?
The Rays and the Orioles have a better record, and the Braves, that's it. The Rays, Orioles, and Braves are the only teams that have a better. The Marlins have the 4th best record in all of baseball and have the 2nd best record in their entire league, and are still 8.5. Like, what the
8.5 out of first place.
Like, that's so.
All right. Well, we all know the story. Every time they've made with the exception of the COVID year, the 2 other times that they had wild card entries into the postseason, they went on to win the World Series. So they're 2 out of 3 when they make the postseason. Isn't that amazing? They've only made the postseason 3 times. Is that true? 3 times.
30 years.
In 30 years.
Yeah, it's sad.
They had 21,000 out there. I saw yesterday, 21,000 people. was not
Yeah,
a particularly significant number. I mean, even though for us it was like a miracle. But,
well, the problem is they've been around that number. Like they had games last week during the weekdays that were in the 20-something thousand. See, I thought this would be the first weekend that they would actually get sellouts. It's a Northeast team, and we know how they do down here. A playoff contender in the Phillies, a division rival, and it's a weekend. Like I figured the attendance will go up, but it's sort of leveled off in the low 20s is where it's sort of been.
that may be it. That may be. I mean, World Series games are going to have like 21-5. Here we are in Game 6 of the World Series. The Marlins failed to achieve the home field advantage for this one, but they can tie it up here tonight and send it to a Game 7. We have a crowd here of 19,786, all enjoying a hot dog and a beer here at Lone Shark Park. And if you need a loan, you can either go online to Loan Depot, or you can go down to the lobby at Gate C and see Vito down there. He's got plenty of cash. He can lend you at what may not be such a favorable price. And by the way, the juice is by the week. And, without paying that, we have baseball bats. Perfect name for a stadium, huh? Lone Shark Park. That is great. All right, they had a Major League Baseball draft yesterday. That's something I don't know. I mean, it was – I thought this would be reversed, right? Everybody thought that Dylan Cruz guy from LSU would be the number one pick. He's a position player that hit over 400. Was he a senior at LSU? He might have stayed there all 4 years. It's possible. And Paul Skeens, the pitcher, who looked to be like ridiculously unhittable. I'm thinking best guy I've seen, best prospect I've seen out of college, and I don't follow this that closely. Since your man, Paul Wilson, at Florida State, where you watched the guy pitch and you said, my God, how is that guy not immediately going to be called up to the pros? I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe Skeens will put Catwoman on top. And I just wanted to finish that thought before we get into Scoop Skolnick in the next hour here of the program. And so I'm asked to buy two $50 tickets for this friend of the Mustang who didn't know how to call out the bet, which, that's the other thing that's suspect. Like, what does she really want? Right? Can you communicate that to me? Now, the terminology is a little bit different, although not enough so that it would dissuade me from being able to go ahead and get this money down, which I think I did in the proper fashion, which was she wanted to bet $50 on the Pirates to make the World Series, which comes under the heading of win the National League outright.
Yeah, they're 8 under 500 right now.
Yeah, that's at 50-1, okay, to get to the World Series, which I thought was really short, wasn't it? I mean, their odds almost, borderline. What's the number before infinity, Lubie? What do you think?
I don't know.
Infinity -1 should be the price of this. They're not making the World Series. I would probably be inclined, if forced to bet my last dollar, which unfortunately I'm not that far away from, but bet my last dollar on the fact that the Pirates would not win the National League pennant. What do you think?
I agree. They're 8 under 500. They're not even in the whispers for the playoffs, let alone winning the whole league.
Short of Bill Mazeroski being resurrected from the grave here to hit a home run at Forbes, it's not happening, right? This $50, I mean, it was one of those things where, unfortunately, you do have, some kind of, I guess, degenerate ego that you don't want to be the guy that's at the sportsbook line looking like a clown. But, I mean, there's a certain amount of dignity associated with kind of knowing what you're doing. And it was one of those deals where they go, hey, Lou, we got one here. Wants to bet the Pirates. How much? Right? And you say 50. You go, yeah, make it 500 while you're at it. I mean, and you're sitting there, and the executives from Harrah's are sitting behind this guy saying, hey, all the action you want on the Pirates. So, but the problem is, if they do go to the World Series, I would owe Cat, if I booked it, $5,000. And then if they win the World Series, it was 100-1, I guess. So it's $10,000. That's where you would have to hedge, though, wouldn't you, Lubie? If you had the Pirates to make the World Series for $5,000 and you were going to win another 10 if they won it, are you not putting two dimes on the other team? So there's your homework problem, kids. We're going to come back and discuss that. But Louie's favorite, NBA Summer League. We'll get to the bottom of this whole Wemby story here and see what's going on with the Miami Heat. You say this Jokic, I see him drilling nothing but three-pointers, this kid. He's like 6'8". Are you kidding me?
The big story for the Heat, obviously, is the Dame Lillard watch, and Jovic is the next NBA superstar if you follow Miami Heat fan Twitter.
All right. Well, this has got a lot of steam. You said, what, thousands of people are tuning in. when we post this
Right.
stuff. So put Dame Lillard's name in the thing, and that Scoop's on the show. And we'll come back with Scoop Skolnick here on a Defo Show on a Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:03.
Yo.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Recently, we realized it's not just hurricane season that can hurt us. Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business. And the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. Before you call the insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752.
You can't fake caring. Women can sense this immediately. You don't really care. You didn't really want to do any of this.
We now return to the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. And it's a Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday. We're peeling ourselves off the mat after kind of a festive week there of degenerate activities in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And we welcome the world traveler, although it does not appear he's at a hotel room in Las Vegas.
No, not yet.
The great Ethan Scoop Skolnick of 5 Reasons Sports Network to the program here. Were you tempted? Did you go? I mean, did you
No, I'm
sniff that
going.
first game? You are going. Okay.
I'm going tomorrow, but I had my daughter this week, so I'm going tomorrow. By the time I go, probably nobody will still be playing, but that's okay. I want to get out there just in case there's a Dame trade or something else along those lines. I'm hoping to see Wemby once. I'm out there for one of his games. It's the same time as a Heat game, but I might have to slip over to the other gym. The way it works in Vegas is the big gym, the small gym, they're connected, concessions in between, so you just kind of rotate between one and the other.
Okay, so 2 games are taking place at the same time, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. Now, if the Heat are playing at the same time as the Wemby game, where are you situated, Ethan?
Well, I have somebody else out there with me, so I think I'm sending him to the Heat, especially because by then I don't know who the Heat are still going to have playing because Jovic and Jaquez are both banged up a little bit right now, and I feel like in the event, not just for yourself, but in the event you're going to include anybody in a trade, you certainly don't want to make anything worse. So I think they're played today, but I don't know that they'll play. The 2 of them will play. So
could they both be involved in a transaction that brought the Heat?
I mean, they both could be. I don't think they both will be. I think by the time that this thing plays out, and I also don't think that both of them necessarily have great value to Portland. I feel like Jovic has more value to Jaquez than Jaquez does. Jaquez is 22. Jovic is 20. Jovic plays a position that's a little bit harder to fill. I feel like Portland is going to go for Jovic and not Jaquez, but we'll see. I mean, I think in any case, you just don't want to make anything worse right now.
Jovic looks like Dr. Ye, I guess it would be, as he's playing in the Summer League games. And there was always a conversation. I keep hearing, how great this guy is, and yet he never sniffed the floor. It didn't seem to, unless it was garbage time. What do we make of this guy? I mean, what is the real story behind him?
Well, he's talented, but he's young. I mean, we know that Eris Spoelstra is going to make you earn it on the defensive end, or at least in most cases. And, I don't think he was ready from a sort of a spatial awareness thing. to kind of proceed the way that Eric wanted him to. I mean, the offensive skill set is there. It's been there since the beginning. It's also was about getting stronger. He got a lot stronger in during the season. He put on about 15 pounds, most of it muscle. And the important thing whenever you put on weight like that is that you look comfortable with that weight. And he does. I mean, it looks like he grew into it properly. They didn't rush it. But it's going to give him a lot more physicality in the post. He likes to play out on the perimeter. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like, I feel like he's a guy that if he's with the Heat this year, he's going to contribute. Like, I don't know that he'll start next to Bam, but conceptually, he's kind of the perfect fit next to Bam. He's kind of, if you look at a guy who can space and can do all those things, can play make, can get Bam some of those high-low touches. I think he'd be terrific with the Heat, but is he going to be with the Heat? That's the question.
Well, and that's where we are now. And we didn't get a chance to talk to you last week. And I was like, shoot, we're going to miss him. This thing seems to be moving pretty quickly. And then it just sort of died in the weeds, which a lot of the times that happens with the Heat moves. When it gets really loud is when the Heat are like, no, we're not doing anything now. We want it to quiet down. We don't want anyone knowing what the hell we're doing. It seems to be when the Heat move the best, but Dame and the Blazers were making it very loud. Outside of Boston and some national media, it feels like most people are set on Damian Lillard will be eventually part of the Miami Heat. Mm-hmm. Where are you with that? And where are we in that? Just, it felt like it was going to happen sometime last week, and now it feels like no one knows when the hell it could happen.
Yeah, look, I mean, depending on who you talk to, it either happens now or never in the next 2 weeks. I mean, I just think it's at a point where Portland just realized the gig is up, right? Or the jig is up. I mean, that's where we're at. I just don't think there's really any chance of him being traded somewhere else. I would be stunned at this point. His agent, Aaron Goodwin, has kind of stomped his feet, which is what needed to happen. And look, you can trade for a guy as a no-trade clause. You can tell him to come to camp. And kind of with Kawhi, that's sort of what happened in Toronto. But look, Kawhi also had kind of done the organization wrong with the Spurs by the end. He wasn't playing when they wanted him to play. I mean, Dame didn't do anything wrong. He sat down last year at the end because they wanted to tank the last 2 weeks of the season. So, and he was clear with them from the very beginning, and there's no loyalty in the Blazer fan base to Joe Cronin. He's been there like a year and a half. So I think ultimately they're going to do what Dame wants to do. I just think they're trying to save face, and it's how long does it take before they can do that? So how many teams do they have to talk to find out there's nobody coming? There's nobody Dame's going to go to on that list of teams that may trade for him or has the resources to trade for him. And then ultimately you try to make the best deal you can, and you work with the Heat so that you get something either from the Heat or for another team that the Heat trades someone like Tyler Hero to, so that you can say, okay, we got more than we were supposed to get. I mean, to me, that's kind of where it's at. And so does that take a day, 2 days? I mean, I say it's going to happen Tuesday because I'll be on a stupid Spirit flight without wireless.
So Jesus, no. Are you bringing in luggage, Scoop?
I am. I bring a little bit. I'll bring Dave back. I'll bring Dave back in my luggage. It's gonna be 6 feet 2 inches tall, just in case. Yeah, I think ultimately this thing will get done in the next couple of weeks, and I think it probably gets done in Vegas this week, but we'll see.
Obviously, you don't travel. I mean, being in this business, you tend to travel very lightly in terms of what you take with you. Always assuming that you're going to an American city where if you did forget something or, leave something out, you might be able to purchase it at a reasonable price.
No.
My wife travels with she just puts the wheels on the dresser, right? And so it's always a scene. Now, we haven't flown Spirit in a while, but when we have, I mean, the scene at the scale there when they put your bag on the scale, literally is like a Don King weigh-in. It's unreal, as, you see King's fighter coming in there with flab rolled all over the side of his pants, and somehow he comes in at 212. Just the opposite, though. I mean, whatever you have in that suitcase, it's going to weigh over 50 pounds. And then we were talking the other week about the embarrassment. Have you ever been in that situation where you've had to pull, like, underwear out of a suitcase?
I have.
You were married for a time. I mean, did you fly?
Yeah. Well, I mean, now the packing myself thing is a little bit more problematic. I did do this for 20 years, but I'll forget something for sure.
Yeah, like your computer.
Yeah. Here's my worst forgetting my computer story. I literally was on a plane, I think going from Barcelona to Rome, and I literally left my computer on the overhead compartment. You try to get your computer back after that, So.
Yeah. How did you file the stories?
It ended up finding me 3 cities later in 2 countries.
Shades of Midnight Express. This hashish that you have wrapped around your waist, Mr. Skolnick. I mean, you end up like Brittany Griner there, in some Russian jail running away. All right, the Wemby thing. So far, I mean, I guess the most interesting development out of the first, episode that he had, was the signing by Bob Arum of his security guy for knocking down Britney Spears 3 times in a round. So there was that story, and yet every time I've seen this kid in an interview, and this can always break down very quickly with failure, I guess, but he seems so well composed that you thought he might be able to shake off what was somewhat unimpressive, I guess. How would you characterize his debut performance? I mean,
his debut wasn't good. I mean, the second one was much better. Again, what he's saying is right. Like, it's very difficult to play in these summer league games. I mean, you're playing with guys that you hardly played with, you practice with twice. You're not really running anything.
They're trying to make a name for themselves too.
Exactly. And a lot of these guys have played in, high level professional leagues. They're just, or the G League or whatever. They have some physical, limitations that may make them not as good as some of the guys who are become longtime pros, but they know how to play and yet they're not playing right. And so it's a mess. It's the guys who are trying to get theirs. The coaches are not the coaches that you have during the regular season. He's not being coached by Greg Popovich. He's being coached by somebody on Greg Popovich's staff. Right. So it's just a different deal. I think he's going to be fine. I think obviously the biggest issue with him is just whether his body holds up. That's to me is the thing. But, they'll get in a conditioning program. He went to the absolute right organization. So, I mean, I think if he was going to, unproven organization right now, like a Detroit or Orlando or something like that, he's going to San Antonio. They've done this before. I mean, they've done it with Robinson. They did it with Duncan, with Pop there. So I think he's going to be absolutely fine. The biggest thing with him is he's already got to deal with this Britney garbage and all that. I mean, it's going to be the level of expectation. And the kid is really bright and he's very
seems sharp.
Yes. Yeah. And I hope he doesn't have to deal with all the crap, but he will. And that's more the thing. It's not the basketball stuff. I think he's going to be absolutely no problems. He'll have some ups and downs during this season, but he'll likely end up being the rookie of the year.
Yeah, obviously the question would be, is he strong enough to hold up, especially across, the rigors of an 82-game season or whatever number he ends up playing. And we were thinking back to the old days where Ron Rothstein had taught Bill Laimbeer that airplane spin that he put Larry Bird in.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, if this guy gets roughed up consistently, it might be, a problem for him, especially to cope with this year. Pop, by the way, I thought he was finished. Now would you agree, that Greg Popovich is mostly into Donald Sutherland as an older actor? You say that they are unmistakably
a little bit. I mean, he looks like he's a member of the Night's Watch from right?
Yeah, I mean, he's getting really strange looking. What we know, he's been around forever. I mean, it doesn't seem like he has to love it, but he just signed a new 5-year extension. I thought he was getting set to retire.
I thought so too, but I think that's why you're hearing Becky Hammond's name, going to other head coaching jobs and others. I mean, he's got this coaching tree, but everybody left. And I feel like they all left because they kind of knew that there wasn't going to be any place for him to go. The only unfortunate part is Eric Spoelstra was going to become the longest tenured coach of any team in the NBA. I don't know what Eric's going to look like when he gets there. He looks like he's aging a little, but his hair will probably still be jet black. But look, and the number is significant because, now you start to think about what, Spo might get when he gets out to, he's never going to get to the open market, but what kind of money that they're going to give Spo. They never release it. So he's probably, maybe in the neighborhood of $20 million a year, but they're never going to release it. So, look, Pop is the right guy to lead this. I think if they don't get Wemby, then maybe he doesn't stay quite as long. But I feel like, it's the chance to leave another legacy and obviously a chance to maybe win before he's done, which if he got in the second pick, the third pick, the fourth pick, you don't know that. So
anyway. Before we wrap up things with you, I did want to bring it back to the Dame story because I know you guys have been potting like 5 times a day, and I'm
Yeah.
pretty much centered around that. At least for our points, we're presuming it's happening, right? Okay. And the Thomas Bryant move and Richardson move actually seem very interesting to pick up spots where they needed people after losing Vincent, Strus, and they needed a big desperately when you were putting Zeller, who hadn't played basketball in 2 years, in the finals. You needed some size. What other things should you see them doing? Because it feels like they want to make some other moves, but right now they're not, waiting for Lillard. How else do you see them finishing off the roster?
Yeah, I mean, I think the major moves were Brian and Robinson. Brian and Richardson. I feel like, they'll look at other shooters. We talked about Landry Shamet as a guy who I'm not in love with, but I mean, he could be a shooter they add to the roster. I don't think there's anybody that's going to be a top 8 guy. There could be somebody who comes back in this trade. We'll see. I don't know about the Nurkic part of this. I feel like they may get away with not having to do that and take his money back. He could contribute for them, but it's just a lot of money. But look, we talked about a guy named Josh Christopher. I mean, there's some low-level names here. Danilo Gallinari is a name they could circle back to again for the millionth time, maybe in a trade. Sadiq Bey is a name I know they've checked into, but I think that would require a little bit more. But look, I think obviously if you get Dame, it's just about who's left, right? And then you start to put the pieces around him. And we did a podcast last night on the different options that they could play with Dame, Jimmy, and Bam, depending on who's left. They could start. If Caleb's there, then he likely starts. If he's not, then Josh Richardson likely starts. In some lineups, you might have Love start. I think there's a case for Duncan Robinson to start, honestly. I know Brady likes that one, as long as you have a defensive 4. And maybe it's Haywood Highsmith starts with him. So I think there's a lot of different ways they can go. But I think that any way that you look at it, they're going to be in really good shape. I mean, I don't think they need to make a major addition to this roster if they get Dame. I think people are kind of forgetting they got Shaq in 2005, and Damon Jones looked like an all-star for half of the season. Like if you get great players, the role players will fit. Like, I'm not concerned. And Josh Richardson is a high-level role player, and if they keep Caleb Martin, so is he. So, I mean, beyond those 5, what do you really need? I feel like that they'll be able to pull it. Maybe it's a couple of these developmental guys. They like Chase Audich. I think Bouye, or however you pronounce his name, they like him too as sort of a creator point guard. So their roster, they will be the favorites in the East if they get Dame Lillard.
All right, you're heading to Las Vegas, Las Wages, Sin City. And you're going to be watching Summer League basketball. And a couple of things real quickly here. And we always thank you for coming on the show. Number one, congratulations. I mean, you're like eclipsing Draymond Green's podcast in terms of viewers. Top 5 NBA podcasts. I mean, and there are a lot of guys out there that have really interesting stuff. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I've told the story a few times. I didn't witness this last trip out to Atlantic City, which I came home on Saturday. But and Lubie was amazed by this. I was in, you'll find this surprising, a bar near the sports book. And I'm listening to these 2 guys pouring over statistical information and conferencing heavily about who they were going to bet on that night. And I thought, wow, these guys really seem like they know what they're doing. I mean, it was almost like listening to Bill James as he was putting together the baseball abstract. And I thought, well, they must have some insight into some baseball games. I'm just going to ask them, hey, if you don't mind, I mean, like, who do you like tonight? Which I would rarely do. And so they said, no, we're not betting baseball. We're betting Summer League basketball. Is that advisable, Ethan Skolnick, in your opinion, or how quickly? Never mind propositions and parlays. How quickly will the American public be separated from its money if it's betting Summer League basketball?
Well, I was separated last night when I played this because I've been playing the unders on the stars out there because I figure they're going to get those guys out as quickly as possible.
Oh, wow. I mean, see, there it is. I mean, you fall into the category.
Oh, no, I am. I see Mayo's commentator started like roulette or blackjack. Actually, she was playing Go Fish at the bar the other night at Quarterdeck. He wants to go join. And then
don't let her hang out with Mayo, by the way. He is a sicker degenerate than most people ever imagine.
You have rabbit ears and come here. Okay, all right, hold on. So say no.
Bring her on the show.
We don't have time to get ready. We're literally ending the show. Okay, we gotta go.
All right. I know you gotta run.
Okay.
All right, so
right.
you're involved, is what you're saying.
Come here.
All right.
There.
Now, Sasha, it's a pleasure to meet you, first of all, and have you on the show. But are you aware that your dad is betting on summer league basketball proposition bets? Now look at her; she just makes a face on that, and like who the hell would do that?
That was your allowance.
That says it all.
I'm just kidding.
That says it all.
I'm just kidding.
All
Scoop,
right,
I mean, you're a great father, but I mean, can you really live with yourself?
I can't. Not anymore.
But how incredibly intelligent is that, though? What an intellectual approach. You know, they're going to take the Stars out of the game in 3 minutes. Although, did you go down with Wemby last night? The over-under
Yes, I did. It was shaded short.
He plays all 48 minutes.
Exactly. That's how that works. We know how that works.
All right, I know you got to run here. You're getting pressure.
Right.
That I mean, pressure from a woman is one thing, but pressure from how old is Sasha now? 8?
How old are you?
9.
Well, no, 9 in a week from today.
Kid skates like Peggy Fleming. What is she? Gonna be a figure skater or a hockey player? What do you think?
I'm a figure skater.
Figure skater? Okay. All right. All right. You got to run, Scoop. Pleasure, man. And nobody
All
ever
right,
had a
thanks,
better
guys.
excuse for leaving this show than this. This is
I-
great. All right. Scoop Skolnick, ladies and gentlemen. You just got him out of there because you didn't want him getting in a jackpot with the daughter.
Yeah, daughter getting pissed.
All right. So, I mean, the summation of all of this is that you and many other people believe that this is a foregone conclusion. But we don't know exactly what the entire chemistry is going to be in terms of what's involved in this deal or how many teams, right? There was this theory out there, and it seemed to make perfect sense. I don't know. Is the media just making this stuff up? Are we, as sports fans, they being treated like Ron DeSantis by the media? And they're just steering us in a direction where everybody believes that it's going to take a 3-team transaction here for the Damian Lillard trade to take place?
First, and the Heat are.
Because they didn't want
obliged to
Tyler
be
Hero, right? Isn't that part of it also? That somebody else is going to have
Hero
to want
doesn't
Tyler Hero.
fit. He's just like everything they have, and they want something
Right.
different. So, and they want a couple more first. So,
And Hero would logically have to go because of
Yes,
his
you gotta-
salary,
gotta go there.
being somewhat compatible there, and you have to trade salary for salary in the NBA. We all know that.
When
Mr.
other
DeForest.
teams want, as much as South Florida fans have given Hero a lot of crap because he seems to get hurt in the playoffs every time. The guy is a 20-point. He's a 25-4 dude who shoots really high field goal percentage, and is only 23. Like, it feels like he's been around forever. He's still a young side of things. So other teams actually. So you have to give him up to get the Nets or the Thunder or both involved because you need their young players and a couple more draft picks from them to facilitate this trade. And that seems to be the sticking point, is getting the exact machinations of who's going to give what to where to get this done. But everyone seems to be saying the same thing because Dame has made it clear. And in this day and age, to have a superstar be pissed sitting on your bench is just stupid business. It doesn't make any sense for any team to do that.
Only Aaron Rodgers, right? I
Yes,
mean,
that's
what
really what
leverage
it
did
is.
Green Bay have eventually? It's amazing they got what they did out of the New York Jets, isn't it? Because they had zero leverage at that point. I guess the leverage they had is that, look, we might just be. I mean, are you bluffing when you're suggesting that you might just be stupid enough to eat it?
Yes.
And, out of what? Out of greed and avarice, that you're going to go ahead and keep a very despondent and reluctant Aaron Rodgers on your bench. Take just an absolute jolt to the gut when it comes to the salary cap. Have a really lousy season on top for your fans with a disgruntled quarterback. Or, your option is what? They weren't going to keep him. In this case, Lillard seems to be more gentlemanly about this whole, process that he's been involved in than others who have demanded trades. Would you say that there doesn't seem to be any great acrimony or friction between the player and the franchise? They sound like they want to accommodate Lillard, and why not? Because if they don't, in a players' league, as the theory would go, then who's going to want to come to Portland in the first place? And because it rains there every day, and in a second, well, it rains here every day, and we love it here, right, Lubie? Is that fair to say? But
Oh,
there,
yeah.
the sun never shines. 0.0. Here, I mean, 15 minutes of rain. Okay, you're right back out there in the sunshine. Jesus, it's good for my skin. I don't think so. I do look a little. I got a little too much sun when I went on that wave running expedition. Although they only let you go kind of around in circles, even though there was like a beautiful giant waterway, which I thought we were going to explore. But then I was thinking to myself, who would be dumb enough to turn a couple of schmucks like me and Big Rich loose in unfamiliar waterways? That can be, as we talked about earlier, Lubie, that can be scary. But rarely, I mean, am I changing with my old age? Rarely would I engage in any kind of activity other than degeneracy while in any gambling environment. Here I am on like a nature walk, out there wave running, sampling fine food.
You were getting killed.
I was as ice cold as I've ever been. I mean, just freezing cold. I hit my very first horse bed, and the second day that I was in the horse book there at the Borgata, I didn't cash a ticket for the first 3 hours I was in the book.
Oh,
I mean, it wasn't like I was stuck so much, but I'm looking at it going, this is impossible. Then, of course, we passed it at Thistle Downs thing, and $910 later, we were sitting there still stuck. All right, we're going to come back with more. The Home Run Derby is tonight. I'm not hearing a ton of buzz about that, although, once again, interesting from a gambling proposition for the most part. But what do we have in the Home Run Derby here, Lubie? We'll get into that a little bit and continue. Scoop Skolnick, very interesting, though. You're assuming, like Scoop and the rest of the world, that Damian Lillard is going to be wearing a Miami Heat uniform. We don't know what Wembanyama is going to be, but it was interesting. I swear I thought Pop was ready to retire. What he handed the reins to Becky Hammond and made her the first. He likes to do this sort of thing. And is Popovich? He is also the president of the club, is he not? He also holds an executive title. So decisions are coming from him. And is that rightfully so? How much better is he as a head coach than anybody else? Is he really that much better? What does he do that makes him better? Their team sucked this year. He wasn't able to win without talent. I mean, it's great when you have Tim Duncan and the Admiral on the team, and Tony Paquet, right? Who was banging what? Eva Longoria, and let her go, man. Talk about a turnover. Yeah, that's ugly, man. I don't know. Maybe she was hard to deal with. Is it possible? I don't know. I don't have that kind of success with women that I could be an authority on relationships that work. All right, coming back with more in a moment. Now that. How do you feel about tribute bands, though, Lubie? I mean, did you ever weigh in on that?
I don't know if I have a strong opinion that you do.
I don't know if it's so strong. I mean, it's okay, whatever it is. Yeah. They're
not my dream. I agree with you. I'd rather see people play their own music and throw in twists on famous songs. To just see people be another band, I don't need to go pay to see that. I'm okay with
Here's
that.
another question. Should the guy wear some kind of wig to give off the appearance of the artist that they're paying tribute to? The lead singer, right? Like, is it important to look like Tom Petty if you're in a Petty tribute band? This guy did have a little bit of a Petty look to him. I mean, and he had the hair, and I'm trying to figure out, is that a wig? Is that natural? Wasn't sure. If it was natural, then he's walking around and everybody's going, look at this dumb fuck. He's trying to look like Tom Petty. If you're a Beatles tribute band, should you be wearing Beatles wigs? Or should you have your hair? I mean, does that make a difference in the enjoyment of the performance? That the tribute band looks. I mean, if you're an Eagles tribute band, do you look like Glenn Frey? I mean, what do you think? You don't have an opinion on
people
that?
probably want that. I think that's lame.
Should you try to look like Mick Jagger if you're like a Stones knockoff band? Or does that come off as being like just really cheesy and you know right away, well, these guys clearly are not the Rolling Stones, which you know going in, but you want to kind of attach yourself to the fantasy, don't you? That you're seeing the band that you were in such admiration of. See, it's weird now having tribute bands while the band itself is still playing.
Yes.
Tom Petty being deceased, it's going to be hard for him to make a comeback. You would have to think. Although Mazeroski from the grave for the Catwoman. What if I ended up owing her $15,000 though? Would it have been worth booking her $100 bet? What would you have done, Lubie, in that spot?
Just in case she wins, you don't have to find a way to cover that. Like, you don't want to have to pay that off. Yeah,
Don't
you
have
don't
to
want
move to
to.
Costa Rica. What are you talking about? Imagine owing somebody 15 dimes for a stinking $100 that you booked because you were losing at the slot machines. My God. No, I as my father said, the DeForest family, we have no luck and stuff like that. We don't get away with anything. That was it. It wasn't that we didn't have any luck. He said we never get away with anything, which I'm living proof of. All right, coming back with more in a moment. Now that is not to imply any kind of guilt whatsoever in that case. It's 8:33. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
Neil deGrasse, when you look at the exploration and what's going to be, I mean, what was your reaction to what was there on Mars? Were you expecting to see like an Arby's franchise up there, or did you have a pretty clear picture of what they were going to find?
No, but at least a Starbucks. Come on.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. Peel yourself off Demand Monday. Peel yourself off a week's vacation Monday as well. Took me a day to get readjusted to normal life yesterday. I did virtually nothing. Mike Lubitz, after partying well into the wee hours of the morning, consistently there in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And I can't wait to go back. There are people that think this place is a dump, that it isn't worth their time, Atlantic City, New Jersey. There was that movie, Burt Lancaster, was he the star of that movie, Atlantic City? A really dumb fucking movie that some people like. Forget what it was exactly. He was like a bookmaker that somehow falls in love. I don't remember the exact plot line there, but I remember watching part of it on a recommendation of the Mustang the other day, and I thought, I've seen this movie. It sucks. Is that, I don't know. You ever heard of that movie, Atlantic City? I believe that's the actual title of the movie. Anyway, I mean, there was a lot going on. And believe it or not, the Showtime people were in town. I did not come across them or wasn't aware of it until I was watching the fights after getting home Saturday night. But they were from the Boardwalk City Convention Center here in Atlantic City, New Jersey, right? Where they used to hold the Miss America pageant there, which turns out even that was crooked. Unreal, right? Bribing of judges was very much like, the Juan Antonio Samaranch era of Olympic rule, where nothing was on the level. It was great. All right, the Home Run Derby, 1960. The show was originally filmed in 1959, Libby. The original Home Run Derby. You have actually downloaded clips from the Home Run Derby. I don't know if we still have that thing. With Mark Scott was the name of the announcer. He was also the creator and producer of the show, which was distributed by Ziv TV. And Ziv TV was one of the strong distributors of television programming back in the day. I think they had like all of the big hits were distributed by Ziv TV. It only had one season on the air, Lubie, if you can believe that. For as much hoopla as there is around the home run derby now, the actual program that this whole competition was based on only lasted one season on TV. And yet I remember I was surprised by that. I mean, I've looked that up in the past and always been amazed and stunned once again. Really? That only aired for 1 year? I remember watching that like endlessly. Home run derby when I was a kid, 1960. I would have been 9 years old, was very much into baseball. And they had, could you do this today? Where you would literally lure every big power hitter in the game competed in the home run derby. They had, I forget what the number was exactly, but it was like 8 future Hall of Famers or something competing in this one season of the home run derby. And it was great because you would get that aw shucks interview. There were no fans in the stands. It was like going to a Marlin game in April. No fans in the stands. And, you can hear like, they didn't have cell phones back then, but if they did, and there was one guy out there outside the fence in center field on the phone, hey, I'm outside the stadium here. You wouldn't think something was going on, but guess what? I just saw Mickey Mantle roll in here. Mickey fucking Mantle was on this show. Unbelievable. Hank Aaron, all of the big hitters of the day, Harmon Killebrew. It was absolutely fantastic. And yet, I mean, it transpired in such a slow-moving, pedantic fashion that you can't imagine that this was like exhilarating, entertaining TV. You would have to have like fireworks or something going off in the background like they do now. But what do you think? I mean, are you a fan of the current edition of the Home Run Derby? There's nothing else on TV tonight, is there, in terms of sports, unless you want to dive deep into the women's sporting calendar and landscape here with our buddy Jim Sarney and head out to Twin Peaks and catch what? Junior varsity women's lacrosse. Isn't there a collegiate title on the line tonight? Might be. Let's say I'm very scanned. I mean, I'm looking. Here you go. Here are today's television offerings, Lubie. This is maybe the main reason why you would have so much attention, so many eyeballs on the Home Run Derby. You have the Derby at 8 p.m. You have Wimbledon is going on in the morning, so that's off the ticket. Summer League basketball. Would you be inclined to watch that over the Home Run Derby? You have that's it. That's the only other sporting offering tonight. An assortment of Summer League basketball games. What do you think? Home Run Derby or Summer League basketball derby? You're a big basketball fan.
I mean, I would normally, but I can't name one person in it. Who's in the Home Run Derby? Is anyone worth anything in the Home Run Derby?
Here you go. All right, you got Pete Alonso, obviously, and Alonso embraces this competition. There are players that say, and we've maybe seen some evidence of this, that they've been hurt in the second half of the season because they went ahead and used up so much energy in the Home Run Derby, which it was a bloody marathon, was it not? And they changed the format to try and eliminate some of that, and I think for the benefit of both the fans and the players. But they don't they do it now with brackets? Is that how they conduct it? They have like so-and-so against so-and-so, and you eliminate a guy? Okay, yes. So you have Pete Alonso, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Nothing wrong with him, right? Alonso really embraces the competition. You have Louis Robert. What the hell is that? It sounds like a program director's name, doesn't it? At a Spanish station. Yeah, Luis Robert. Because the program directors always had two first names. Those were the guys that were most scary in the industry, were they not? The guys that walked around with two first names. Although Duff Lindsay wouldn't really qualify, but Duff, is that a legitimate first name? And it wasn't even his real name, which none of them were, right? Gary Bruce was another guy. Guy kind of got me started at WIOD, but two first names, eh? You're starting to think what? And not to imply that this guy, he actually was very good to me over the period of time, but you're thinking Hitler Youth, no? Two first names, Gary Bruce. Does it frighten you, Louie? I mean, Grace Blazer was our program director after what? Ken Charles, another guy, two first names.
Yes.
And what was he telling us? He was telling us, and I like Ken Charles because he was always kind of a fan of mine and was always interested in bringing me into whatever organization, he was running. In this case, it was 940 Wins. But remember he said, hey, no interview should be longer than 3 minutes. Like, yes. Wait a minute. So we're going to get Pat Riley lined up after like months of trying and say, hey, Pat, how the Heat looking this year? And when Pat Riley goes over the 3-minute limit, some guy's going to come running down the hall and going, I told you limit this shit to 3 minutes. Nobody cares after that. That can't be the case, can it, Lubie? I mean, it defies every tenet of broadcasting decorum that I would think you would want to have Pat Riley on for as long as you could keep him on, would you not? Pat Riley comes on your show?
Yes.
Are you going to say, hey, Pat, listen, we only have 3 minutes here, Pat? No, of course not.
With Ken, Ken definitely, to me, never gave advice that sounded like someone who knew fucking radio. So, no.
Yeah. All right. Oh, and that was right around the time, too, where the people meters came out, which fucked up everything, where they were going to measure, radio audiences, and, they were going to do it. They already had, like, the most inferior system of ratings. Whether you got good ratings or not, the system itself was, not even badly flawed. It was bizarre. It had no foundation in reality whatsoever, where they would send these diaries out to 99-year-old women, and, they supposedly were filling in what they were listening to minute by minute on the radio. Get the fuck out of here. I mean, who came up with that cockamamie system? And guys' careers, people's careers would be living and dying in the balance there as these bogus ratings books came out, where it was possible to either, and I've said this many times, Lubie, it seemed unfathomable, no matter how good or bad or badly you were performing, that you could either lose half your audience or double your audience size in a 3-month period of time. It's unfathomable, is it not? That like half the people in a 3-month span would say, you know what, this show sucks. I'm going to listen to Joe Rogan. It's not possible. Right. Yeah. And we know this, people, listener habits are strange. They're very hard to change. I don't know. Is it true with viewer habits? Maybe so. But, very hard to change. And so stations that were doing well consistently would do well because nobody ever changes the dial on the radio. No? And what about the maniac? Like, I can imagine you doing this. I do it. Punching around all the time. The minute I hear something I don't like, boom, I'm on another station. Here you go. But the people meter was even more bizarre, right? Because a guy would get in an elevator and he'd be listening to, one of these zombie music stations. And that would register for the 10 minutes. And if he got stuck in the elevator, it would show up for like 30 minutes. If he got stuck in the elevator, would the music still be playing? I guess that would be the worst way to go out the door, wouldn't it? Never mind a fiery car crash. You're stuck in an elevator for 30 minutes. You lose all chance to breathe. Eventually, the oxygen supply runs out, but you're stuck listening to, I did it my way. Some extrapolation on that played on a synthesizer. All right, so we haven't gotten past the third guy yet, Lubie, and we've killed about 10 minutes on the home run derby. Julio Rodriguez, right? Isn't it's in Seattle, is it not? The game? Yeah, it is. Seattle.
Yes.
So isn't Rodriguez, that's their big guy, isn't he? Didn't he light it up last year as a rookie? Was he in the home run derby last year? Julio Rodriguez.
That's what Andy Man is saying.
Yeah.
Started from Seattle.
Plus 500 on this. 5-1 you're getting on this guy. You're only getting plus 275 on Alonso. Some reason I feel like, this is not an event to play the chalk in. Something bizarre happens, does it not? Where the guy only hits 9 home runs. And Alonso's going with a new guy, I think, pitching to him, who he hasn't seen for like 20 years. Why did you change sides? Am I on my bad side here, Lubie? What do you think?
You're back to your good side.
My nose looking too enlarged from one side. Don't even pranks or, assertions that's tied to a certain religious circumstance here, Lubie. All right. You have Adolis Garcia. Who's he? Do you know him? Adolis Garcia? I don't know.
I don't know that name at all. I've never heard the name in my entire life.
Okay. We do know Randy Arozarena from the Tampa Bay Rays, and he's a great hitter. Is he the kind of home run hitter that you would see winning the home run derby? Randy Arozarena. Possible, right? Wild swinging son of a gun, man. He comes out of his shoes when he swings a bat. He's great. He's a very entertaining player, if nothing else. At 10-1, and is not Mookie Betts? Is he atop the National League in home runs with like 26? Mookie Betts, our man Jorge Soler didn't get involved in this thing, huh? And Soler's an all-star too. Why isn't he in the home run derby? Jorge Soler, Sarni's guy. And then Adley, what is this? Adley Rutschman. Is he a soccer player? They have who's Andy Rutschman? Does he play for the Seattle Kraken? I don't know.
I do not know any of these names. That's my
He's
problem.
the biggest bomb at 20-1. I mean, 20-1 on that cat.
Mayo's mocking us because you make fun of Mayo for doing this, going through the Derby field. That's what this feels like, is a bunch of names I've never heard of. And that's what my problem with the home run derby these days. I don't know.
This is mainstream stuff, though. You can tell Mayo that, this is mainstream stuff. I can't wait till he describes how he got knocked out of that. And I was giving him the business last night on his text, right? Because he's going to be sitting there, in the first 15 minutes of the Lunchbox show saying, well, I had 2-5 offsuit. But, I mean, this is mainstream stuff. It's on ESPN tonight. It's the focus of the sporting world. And yet it is true. I mean, it's nothing like the 1960 show, Home Run Derby, where you had every home run slugger. I mean, who would you want to see in this thing, Lubie? I mean, who's not in? Trout was injured, right? Otani. I mean, they're not going to put him in the Home Run Derby, are they? Oh, he's leading. He's leading the American League in homers. So is Mookie Betts? Does he have 26 home runs this year? I don't know why I want to say yes to that, and yet he's a bomb to win the thing. Doesn't appear to have the physique that you would want to win a home run derby, does he? Where he's just going to be durable and be able to swing the bat all night long. What about the game itself? Is there any interest in the All-Star game itself, Mike Lubitz? Do you care who wins? Is it not the American League that's on some hellacious streak where they won like 13 in a row or something?
Yes.
Big favorites tonight, minus 275. Is the National League not due just because of the arbitrary, bizarre nature of baseball results?
Oh, yeah.
Where even the A's pop up and, the first day I was in Atlantic City, I think the A's were playing the Tigers and they beat them like 12-1.
Wow.
At a phenomenal price, right? You're getting like 3-1 if you're willing to throw your money away on the Oakland A's this year. What do you think? Would you take a sniff with the National League just on the luck of the draw, the nature of the beast that they are due to come out on top in a game that essentially is, a very glorious exhibition? What do you think?
I mean, I haven't cared since they made us care. And we all know how stupid that was. So it's funny, growing up, it always sort of, the Midsummer Classic was a big deal, both the Home Run Derby and
they used to have two of them when I was a kid growing up, and I couldn't wait for either of them. I loved them both.
I loved them growing up. I don't care now. Like, I just don't care about either. I don't care about the Home Run Derby or the All-Star game. I mean, the Marlins have had a decent year, but I don't know if any other guys in it. Like, I don't think any other guys have.
Yeah, no, they have Arise. He's a starter, Louis Arise, and deservedly so at second base. He beat out Albies. Is that the guy's name from the Braves, who's having a great season?
Yeah, Albies. Yeah, nice. Okay, good.
Having a good year for a top-notch team. But Arise were well-deserving, and they had a little campaign going where they asked the 3,000 people that were at the park to please. Yeah, the voting back in the day, is it just as bizarre now with the computer, or even more so? Because we always talked about the fat kid with the knitting needle who would grab like 100 of the cards that they had. I forget who was distributing them. Was it Gillette or Old Spice or somebody? Was distributing the cards that you voted on, and you actually punched a hole for the player that you wanted, and a guy would just stack up 100 of them, take his mother's knitting needle and stab the whole stack. And, this one fat kid was voting 100 times. Now I would imagine what, Lubie? I mean, this might be worse than some Trump concept where the election is as warped as any. But hard to get the popularity going for a Miami team. Do you see a lot of Miami? I did not see one person in Marlins garb, and people were wearing a lot of different baseball pieces of apparel there in Atlantic City. It's much more of a baseball, as we said, oriented area than we are here. But I didn't see a single Marlin jersey or hat on anybody. So are they popular around the country at all? You would think not.
Oh, no.
Miami teams in general are fairly popular, though. I don't know if the Panthers enjoy any particular popularity in hockey circles because they haven't been very good, and those guys tend to be even more finicky and more opinionated and extreme in despising the franchises that aren't very good. But they got Jorge Soler also was going to the All-Star game.
Really? Oh, the home runs. Yeah, all right, that's fine.
But he's not in the Derby, even though what does he have? 23 homers? That would put him up there in reasonable ratio to anybody else that was in there. And he would be the type of guy that might have success doing that. Does he hit a lot of homers in batting practice? Lubie, you would think yes.
Yes, you would think.
Yeah.
Why would he not be like that? That's my problem with the home run. Like, what? Why would you not? Like, Griffey did it 3 times. Barry Bonds was in it all the time. Frank Thomas was in it all the time. Like, why would you not have the more? Look, I like that Vlad Guerrero Jr.'s in it, and I like that the kid out of Seattle's in it. But like, you should have your big name dudes in it. Like,
what wasn't it? Josh Hamilton, right? The guy that had the drug problem that put on that amazing display in the home run derby.
Yes,
and unfortunately didn't win it that year because he hit like 40 or something in the first round, and set all kinds of records there. He was like Joey Chestnut scarfing down hot dogs. I did have a thought on that. Maybe we should bring it up on the lunchbox today. What do you think? Because it's more applicable to a food thing. But what if you were in the airport and unfortunately you had to have a bowel movement, and in the stall next to you, coming off of his hot dog eating competition, was Joey Chestnut letting go of what has to be one of the most colossal bowel movements of all time, don't you think? With 69 fucking Nathan's hot dogs in his system. What if he had to catch a plane out of LaGuardia or whatever, and you happen to be in a stall next to him? I mean, would that be tantamount to some kind of nuclear explosion? What do you think? And could you sue somebody for that? Chestnut. Where does he go to the bathroom after the contest? I mean,
that's a great question.
A portisane that's set up outside there on the boardwalk? Get the fuck out of here. And beach bathrooms tend to be kind of schmutzy. Yeah. They're never cleaned by anybody,
Sand everywhere.
Sand everywhere. Little kids peeing.
There's like water. There's always water and it's dirty.
Yeah, we'll bring that up in the first couple of minutes of the lunchbox.
There you go.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, it might eclipse. What do you think? What did Mayo have when he got knocked out? Did he tell you? I know he doesn't want to run that by me.
He was what final? Was he final 40? I think it was in the final 40. Right?
Yeah, no, he made money. The kid. Congratulations. See, it's so funny because he's reluctant to sort of acknowledge anybody else's idea of like what a good time would be in a restaurant, but. He would love Atlantic City. I think the poker players there are just absolute suckers. Everybody I know just goes in there and makes a score. Big Rich, 2 days in a row, wins 800. Like,
nice.
In a matter of moments. Just taking these guys down there in a 1-2 game. They look like they're on their last. I mean, absolutely, taking their last breath after this hockey game, and they want to lose their money. They can't wait. They've been losing all their lives. They want to continue right to the grave. My son, when he was there, I mean, I walked by the table. I was like, holy, Johnny Chan, man. Look at this kid. Got stacks of chips. I couldn't even see his face. It took me 2 trips around the room to find him. He was behind like a pyramid of chips. It was great. He said, hey, these are the worst players I've ever seen in my lifetime. It was great being with everybody. So what do you think, Lubie? You're not inclined to make a wager on that. I wouldn't be either. I don't think I'll watch it because it tends to drag on, doesn't it, the home run derby?
Yes.
It's sort of boring in its presentation.
Yes. At least now.
Now, does Berman come back and do the play-by-play on the TV?
In years past, I think he had. I feel like I saw him last year or the year before. I don't know if he's going to be there this year.
Doesn't he have to make a guest appearance there at least? I mean, no, they don't want those guys anywhere near the place anymore. The guys that were there in the beginning. Right? I mean, they fired all of them. Everybody, whoosh, right out the door. Incredible. Couple of other things we didn't get to. It looks like your man Cook is not going to be a Dolphin, huh?
It doesn't feel like it.
No. All right. Do you care about that? No.
I like the guy. I obviously like him, and I think he's been great in the NFL, and he's actually stayed healthy the last couple of years. I just don't know how much money the Dolphins have for him, and he wants a real contract. Like the Dolphins don't have the money he wants.
That's what everybody says. The narrative is that offer was too low and not interested. Dalvin Cook, not going to be a Miami Dolphin. DeAndre Hopkins, 3 teams in the mix there. Where would you go if you were him? Would you go to the Chiefs at a lower price to catch passes from Mahomes? Be a part of that sophisticated Andy Reid offense? The fat man sings. The Patriots, which, wow. I mean, is there really this evolving and just burgeoning acrimony between Bob Kraft and Bill Belichick? Can you imagine?
Probably.
And the Titans would be the other team. Who do the Titans have at quarterback now? Tennessee Titans?
It's Tannehill.
Tannehill. Oh, Jesus.
They drafted a young guy, but I think Tannehill's going to start the season, and then we'll see if the young guy finds his way in.
Tannehill, the Christopher Cross of long passes. Sailing away. Ba, ba. And I never got to this. What do you think the Yankees' move was to try and shore up their chances of having a better second half? And they never do this. They never fire people in midseason. People have been screaming for Aaron Boone's head. He makes a bozo move. He takes out Herman, who's got like a one-hitter going. And, takes him out of a ball game that they eventually lose like 14-3. And that was just typical of an Aaron Boone maneuver where he says, oh, well, you know what? I didn't want him to go into this half of the season without this kind of confidence, so I took him out of the game when we go Aaron. I'm not as critical of it because I don't follow the Yankees as closely as other people do. I mean, they're interesting always, as a sporting story. And I do read about them in great detail in the New York Post. But, having grown up originally as a Yankee fan, eventually, attaching my allegiance to the inept and just haphazard New York Mets in 1962. And then, what? You're going to be somewhat of a fan of the team in your city, are you not? Mm-hmm. At least if you consider a fan or being a fan as having a level of interest in that ball club. Do you root against them? I don't know. There was a time there where it was very appropriate, I think, to root against the Marlins in every game. And it's hard to shake that, isn't it, Lubie? Look, I found myself betting against them. Does that not mean that somewhere subliminally I'm rooting for them to lose? Sorry, Tommy. I don't mean to. I mean, I'm just exposing a thing. This is something that you would have to have treated by therapists, no? But it's a byproduct of doing sports talk radio all of these years, where it's just better if your team loses, I think. If they're not going to win it all, we've said this many times, if they're not going to win it all, it's better if they lose, correct? Although we got a lot of mileage out of the Heat and the Panthers, and ultimately, what? They were losers. Yeah. They did not win a championship. So the Yankees, what do you think they did to try and improve their chances of winning in the second half? Short of having Aaron Judge having his toe amputated so it doesn't bother him anymore, what do you think their move was?
What's your favorite move? They got rid of the hitting coach. New hitting coach.
In the immortal words of the late, great Gordon Soley, there you have it. That's what I was trying to get to. To begin the show, Lubie. Ring a bell or something. We finally hit one. Yeah, this is the move. They fired Dylan Lawson. Thank you. I was waiting for that. And that's it. Right? The fans and the media, they're all calling for the head of Aaron Boone, Brian Cashman. What has he done in the last 25 years, Cashman, with all this money? Nothing. Nothing. It's just as if he's being chased to his grave by Lisa Meanwell. And they fired a fucking hitting coach. They're hitting 218 since Aaron Judge went out of the lineup 31 games ago. 218. They're 14-17 in those games. Fourth in the AL East overall. They're hitting 231 overall, which is 28th in the big leagues. Only Detroit and Oakland are hitting for a worse batting average. Not even the Marlins, the Mendoza line Marlins themselves are hitting worse than the Yankees are. And so they fired a hitting coach. What do you think? Does that make them
No, it's not. I mean, what's it going to do? Their hitting hasn't been great, but again, when your two best bats or your two biggest bats are out pretty much the entire fucking year, what do you expect?
That's it, right? And they got all these stiffs on that team, like Stanton and Josh Donaldson, that are bringing the average down. Well, what is he supposed to do with Giancarlo Stanton? This guy, what? Close up his stance? Tell him to drop his hands a little lower? Choke up? That was always the advice of any Little League hitting coach that I came in contact with. You got to choke up on the bat there, DeForest. I did choke up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
It was more common then. I mean, how do people hold like the nub of the bat in their hands and actually hit a baseball? Could you do that?
No.
Couldn't even swing the bat on time. Forget about it. All right, we have to run. Mike Bama's Lunchbox coming up at 12 o'clock today. Any road games coming up? Do I need to know about? Are we doing that thing with Dusty May? When is that?
Dusty May in a future show to be named later.
Okay.
Wednesday, we're at Burton Jacks. I think Burton Jacks are.
Oh, nice. Okay. Burt Rappaport, that guy's great, man.
Series
Yeah.
is going to get started soon, but we haven't done a ton of stuff with them, so we wanted to get back out there. So Burt and Jack's, the famed restaurant, and what's Delray Beach area, I think.
No, it's not Burt and Jack's. Burt and Jack's is closed for many years. That was
Burt and Max.
Burt and Max's. Yeah,
Burt and Max.
thank you, Michael Mayo.
I'm sorry, Burt and Max's.
We're sending people to a vacant island.
Burt and Max's Wednesday. We're going to be back at Gilbert's Thursday. So Burt and Max's Wednesday in Delray Beach.
Yeah. Oh, Gilbert's nice. Yeah.
On 17th Street Thursday. And then, of course, we cap off the week at Gulfstream Park.
Can't beat that, my friends. And guess what's going to be going on Friday, I believe? Is that not opening day of Toga?
Yes, sir. Mayo alluded to it last week.
Toga. Is that opening day? Friday?
It's this week. I don't know if it's Friday exactly.
This week, yeah. I want to say it's Friday, but I couldn't be sure about that. Could be Thursday. Could be sooner. No, I believe they take like kind of a week off, and then they open up like on a Friday. So Toga opens Thursday. Okay, very good. Second day of Saratoga. So it gives you a chance to take a look at things the first day and kind of get your head together about some kind of a fix as to what the track conditions are going to be. And then we'll have that coming up on Friday. Saratoga. Can't we get a show at Saratoga on a Friday?
One of these days, yes.
Well, we got to ship up there.
About it. I'd like us to, travel around since we are at the track Friday and it seems to go really well. It would be cool to do maybe something Pimlico and do something in Belmont,
there you go.
Toga, go out.
Toga, yeah, that would be nice. Tell Mayo to arrange that. That'll be great. All right, we'll see you at 12 o'clock today. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. A lot of fun being back with you. And we'll see you again tomorrow at 7 with the Defo Show. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time as we leave you now that.
The time.
Didn't even get to my thoughts on Wimbledon today, Louis. That was a lot of yakking for what did we accomplish? Scoop was good. It's 9:04.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my show.